They say that discomfort is caused by growth, but what if your discomfort is caused by grief, especially the grief of child loss? Welcome to the Grieving Mom's Guide to Life. My name is Susan Fahidi, and I'm a grieving mom. I'm also a grief advocate and mindfulness life coach. So I think I spoke on one of my previous videos that I potentially had a cardiac event a couple months ago, and I was at my doctor's office a couple weeks ago to do a follow-up. And I'll do a short video in the near future giving you an update on what the cardiologist said, but this follow-up was with my family doctor, and we got to talking about my health, of course, doctor's visit, talking about my health, and a couple of things that came up is that, since my son died 6 years ago, I had gained weight, and then after my daughter got sick and she passed away, and we very quickly entered into the pandemic. I've gained quite a bit of weight, again, since she died. And I'm finding exercise to be extremely difficult. And my family doctor said, well, you need to start looking at your diet and you need to start looking at exercising. And I said to him, those things are uncomfortable. And my life is uncomfortable. Every minute of every day of my life is uncomfortable because of the grief of my child loss. It's so profound. It makes breathing uncomfortable. It makes opening my eyes uncomfortable. It makes stepping out of bed in the morning uncomfortable. I live in discomfort. And doing things like having to look at your weight with diet, eating foods that I guess I don't think about what I eat. I'm not a food person. I'm not a food lover. I'm not a foodie. I actually don't like food, and I actually don't like eating. It just is a means to an end. It's sustenance to fill that hole in my belly and, to keep me going. And I don't think about what I'm eating. But I certainly don't eat things that make me feel uncomfortable or take me out into further discomfort than what I'm already living in. And that's probably healthier foods. I do have a wheat allergy, so I'm already eating a gluten-free diet, which is already hard and uncomfortable. So I'm not really looking at healthier alternatives because it is uncomfortable. And the same with doing exercise. I am not, in my younger years I was more athletic, but after I had children and I, became more sedentary, I suppose. But so I stopped doing physical activity, and I find it very uncomfortable to do physical activity, especially in the winter. I live in Canada. We have a very prolonged cold season. Fall right before winter is dark and wet, and then it's followed by spring, which is light but wet and chilly and maybe a little icy. And so, there's a very short season that might be a comfortable period for me, which is called summer, which is, the season of the year for me. But I don't feel like walking. I don't feel like running. I'm not going to the gym. I'm very uncomfortable in a gym setting. And so, it's now finding what I can do to make changes in the health of my life and what I can do to make changes to become more healthy without making my discomfort even more profound than what it is. And I really be interested to know how you feel about that. How do you handle being uncomfortable living in your life and then having to take on things that will maybe take you into more of a state of discomfort, like going out of those what would be your comfort zone, in diet and exercise and maybe other areas of your life. that can be stressful. Taking on a new diet is very stressful. Starting an exercise plan is stressful. And my life is stressful simply for the fact that grief is stressful. Remember that grief is the number one stressor that anyone can ever experience in their lifetime. And child loss is at the top of that number one grief stressor. So how do you deal with the stress of trying to make changes in your life that potentially could be for the better for you? Well, diet and exercise are better for you. How do you handle those stresses? Leave some comments and how you handle that, and maybe we can help each other find out new ways and become healthier together, because I really advocate for that, for everyone to be healthy within our grief. And I want to be able to walk the walk, and right now I honestly don't know how to do that, and I don't know if you know how to do that. That is something that I'm trying to figure out in my life. There's a lot of things that I have to figure out in my life, and I'm at the point in my grief now where I'm ready to look forward and make some changes so that I'm not living is so much discomfort. And all the power of positivity seekers, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable is growing. It is not a one-size-fits-all, and it's actually quite toxic to those of us who are grieving, because we're not growing. I am not growing. There is no growth in being uncomfortable because 2 of my adult children died. There's no growth there at all. It's it just is. Part of my being is gone. Part of my soul is gone forever. And that is always going to be uncomfortable. And there is no positive aspect to that. There's no silver lining. There's no bright spot. There's no lesson to be learned. There is none of that positivity, toxicity that in this new age of the 2000s that is being thrown at us. It actually can be kind of hurtful. So on that note, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing so that this video can be shared with as many grieving parents as possible. And also consider giving it a thumbs up. And again, leave some comments down below. Let's have the conversation. Let's talk about what you do to help make your life less uncomfortable. Love you guys.